Ladies and gentlemen, quite a few stories to talk about today, starting with the supposed blame shifting going on with Shazam Fury of the Gods and its flop, and how that involves Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or may not involve, that is exactly the point. James Gunn debunking another Grace Randolph rumor and some news on the Blue Beetle trailer. So, hope you guys enjoy today's news roundup. The first story is going to take the majority of the video, I think, because it's quite the interesting one. But before we do, I would really appreciate your support by just hitting that like button. Takes 2 seconds, helps this video out there in the algorithm, and it just helps support the channel and keeps the lights on the BobaTalks domain here and supplies me with more coffee. And trust me, I need it. So here's the first story, and I wasn't necessarily going to talk about it, and I've got so many notes here to sift through because it is a couple of days old, but the story keeps developing, and as I'm recording this, Deadline have now done a story on it, so it's clearly getting a bit of traction. And what I'm going to try and do is put it all into context as best as I can, because it is a weird one, so bear with me while we get into the tea. But this is coffee, but you get the point. So there's new details coming out about how there was originally other characters in the post-credit scene. And as a result, it has caused a lot of discourse online amongst fans, and where some, and I'm saying some, not everyone, fans are saying that it seems as though the flop of Shazam 2 is being put entirely onto that of The Rock's own ambitions for his DCEU plans, and as a result, him restricting the use of cameos and characters. So let's go over this. So I believe this all somewhat started with The Wrap putting out a report touching on how Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson attempted to restructure the DCEU centering around him and Henry Cavill's Superman. And say what you will about Black Adam, the movie, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but let's not pretend as though we weren't aware of everything he had in mind, for better or for worse, with the future of DC. It's just information we already know. We know that he was truly carving out his own universe that was centering around his character and Superman, and heading in just a very different direction with a lot of his input, eventually amounting up to a Black Adam versus Superman fight, with that Black Adam end credit scene teasing that. We also know that he didn't want Zachary Levi in the post-credit scene for Black Adam, and thus passed on that planned scene, which then ended up in Shazam Fury of the Gods as a post-credit scene, albeit quite different. Now, side note here, something I really do want to acknowledge right off the bat is that regardless of all of that at the time, Warner Brothers would have had to have signed off on this. So while Dwayne Johnson had his firm ideas, the higher-ups at Warner Brothers at the time, before Gunn and Safran came in, still enabled it. So before any fingers get pointed at The Rock here, there, or everywhere, they should kind of be pointed at the leadership at Warner Brothers at the time, with whatever you agree or disagree with. But here's where things start getting interesting. So the report from The Wrap also included details of how in the post-credit scene of Shazam Fury of the Gods, the Justice Society, specifically Hawkman and Cyclone, were meant to be the ones recruiting Shazam, and not the characters that David F. Sandberg had to get at the last minute, of which one of them being Jennifer Holland, James Gunn's wife, which then just started a whole other thing and a whole mocking of James Gunn, which again is another story in of itself, of which James Gunn has said that was done long before I came around, and he's only ever cast Jennifer Holland, his wife, in one film. Other than that, it's just been something outside of him, but again, another story for another time. And with that Wrap report coming out talking about all of this, someone did an Instagram story bullet pointing the details, and Zachary Levi reposted the story with the caption, "The truth shall set you free," essentially confirming that what The Wrap had to say about the Shazam Fury of the Gods post-credit scene was true. And in a recent live stream, here's a clip of him addressing this post-credit scene before, getting into the whole blaming part of this whole drama. The comments surrounding Jennifer Holland and her involvement, and James Gunn, and a load of fans going at him for that.
People are slagging on James Gunn because Jennifer Holland, his wife, who is an actress who's on a show, who's on Peacemaker and was in Suicide Squad, yes, but is connected to the Justice Society. We used Jennifer and Steve in that scene, in the mid-credit scene in Shazam. But that was not the original intent. The original intent was to have Hawkman and Cyclone be there to inviting me. By the way, this is a little bit of a spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the movie. Sorry. Whatever. It's all online anyway. So our intent, our desire, Walter Hamada, Peter Safran, David Sandberg, myself, everybody, we had a awesome scene that would have tied me in to the JSA with Hawkman and with Cyclone, and we were thwarted. This is not me. I'm not talking about these things as I'm trying to blame anybody for our movie doing however well or not well it's doing.
Now, what's odd about this is that a lot of fans are saying that this is Zachary Levi putting the blame on The Rock for Shazam 2's failure at the box office. And the thing is, I don't understand that. I really don't. How does Zachary Levi just confirming that the post-credit scene was meant to involve two other characters, which reportedly was thwarted by The Rock, how does that automatically mean that he's blaming The Rock for the film's failure? We'll dissect that more in just a second, but it just doesn't really add up to me. But anyway, with that live stream that he recently did on Instagram, he expanded on all of this, and this is what he specifically had to say about the whole blaming situation that's being put on him.
I may or may not have, reposted something in my stories about a story that I had nothing to do with, that The Wire had reported on. And then I got flack about it because people were saying, "Oh, what are you doing? You're trying to blame this guy because your movie's not doing well. Like you're trying to blame us." Listen, I haven't blamed anybody. There's not one single person that I have blamed for anything with the way that our movie has performed. I legitimately haven't. And if you're listening to videos or watching videos of me or looking at things and you're getting that idea, you are being fooled. You are being brainwashed. You are looking at propaganda.
Now, say what you will, like or dislike Zachary Levi, just analyzing this myself, as unbiased as I can be here, I do somewhat agree with him there in how I don't see how this is being put out as him shifting the blame of that the sole fact Shazam 2 failed is solely because of The Rock and what he didn't want in the post-credit scene. I just keep asking myself, how does a single post-credit scene ensure the success or the flop of a film before people even go to see it? And even after that, you might say, but Boba, this is what he's saying after it's failed. He hasn't said what people are accusing him of. What he has done is he's acknowledged the fact that the Wrap reported this post-credit scene scoop, but somehow that equates to the words of him saying that The Rock caused this movie's failure in that of a lot of fans' minds. Now, having said that, I do think a conversation can be had about the idea of should Zachary Levi have acknowledged the Wrap's report about The Rock not wanting his movie's characters in Shazam 2, because you may agree with that and say, he's just saying the facts and the truth about the situation. Or you might disagree and say, well, this could just potentially cause beef and inflame the whole perspective of The Rock that has been going on for a while with him trying to control everything and just add more DC drama into the whole mix of this. But honestly, as I look at all of this myself, I think perhaps it's maybe got something more to do with the Wrap's report headline itself, which is literally how Dwayne Johnson kneecapped Black Adam and Shazam 2 while trying to take over DC. Now that's quite a bold one-note headline. So the way that reads in of itself, and as many people do typically online, the Rock is to blame for Shazam's failure. So then naturally the way I'm seeing this and the way it's possibly developed is from there on out, Zachary Levi acknowledging this on his Instagram story, even though he didn't say specifically what people are accusing him of, such as the blame shifting thing, it could maybe come off perhaps to some people as endorsing the headline's narrative simultaneously while his movie is failing, and thus giving this perspective to a lot of fans as him blame shifting. But even then, he didn't actually repost the Wrap's headline. It was just a fan summarizing the bullet points from the report. So I don't know. I don't really know how it got to this point. It just seems as though to me that things have just got so distorted and into this just big tangled mess. And there's also this theory that this whole article from the Wrap is a hit piece or a plant from that of Warner Brothers to shift the blame. Yes, going back to this whole blame idea of The Rock and the way he tried to like orchestrate things with quotes like this, such as Dwayne tries to sell himself as bigger than the movie, said a high-ranking Hollywood executive who asked for anonymity in order to discuss talent matters frankly while speaking to the Wrap. And then by alienating the established property that his character was born out of and refusing to integrate with other established characters, Johnson systematically crippled 2 franchises and has harmed DC in the process, says another Hollywood insider. And with regards to that being a plant or whatever, I would just say believe what you will. But the thing is, from what I'm observing, Zachary Levi hasn't said any of that. He didn't post that on his story, the headline, a link to it, or anything. He was just talking about the post-credit scene. But I don't know, ultimately. I would just love to know what you think. What do you make of this? Do you see Zachary Levi saying this stuff? Do you agree with some portions of the fandom saying, oh, shut up, man, just keep whining, you know, your movie's failed? But like, you know, I don't care that Shazam 2 has failed or anything like that. I mean, I've got my review. Go check it out. I criticize it. I praise it at the same time. I like to be as comprehensive as I can be. But as far as my like personal view on this, I don't see him saying any of the things or like trying to shift blame as, oh yeah, if we had this post-credit scene with Hawkman and this, it would have been great. Or if I would have originally been in the Black Adam movie in the post-credit scene, this would have been successful. Like none of this was being said, so I don't understand where this is all coming from. So do you agree with that, or am I missing something? Do you think maybe it was distasteful for him to acknowledge the truth of the post-credit scene, of which I'm kind of up in the air about? Like I don't personally see really anything wrong with him just kind of putting the truth out there, saying, well, Hawkman and Cyclone were supposed to be in it, and that is that. Do with it what you will. How did it get to this kind of narrative? Other than what I've said maybe about the actual Wrap's headline and things like that, I think that is what people have seen. They've then seen Zachary Levi's post reposting the summary of the report, mainly talking about the post-credit scene, and it's just taken a life of its own from there on out. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me. It's going to be interesting to see your takes. Up next, with regards to Superman Legacy, James Gunn, and once again, Grace Randolph, a fan on Twitter, quote tweeted this tweet saying, casting on the way. According to Grace, a casting notice has been sent to all the talent agencies for Superman Legacy. Characters include Clark, Lois, and Jimmy. Ages are early 20s, open to all ethnicities. And they said, true or not? And he said, untrue. We haven't begun casting other than making lists. And it's not limited to people in their 20s. So once again here, this is another thing that Grace has said that James Gunn is shutting down. As far as I'm aware, she's been pretty adamant that these are getting sent out to casting agencies. But he's like, the fact that he's still saying no, like it's just untrue. I don't see why he would deny that, because it is just casting. I mean, sure, stuff like that could leak, and then we could get maybe casting character descriptions and little leaks and things like that. But he's still and that's like not major news, but he's still adamant that no, like we've just begun making lists. But what he did say as well is that it's not limited to people in their 20s. So it's cool to know that he is still looking in the 20s, but not limited to, and thus that means 30s, obviously, and that backs up what we've reported here before with him saying that all he ever meant by not 25 or whatever he said before means that Superman wouldn't be in his 40s. And we were talking about at the time, well, that means if he's not in his 40s, Superman could be like 36, 37, 34. But it seems that 20s is still on the table because he says it's not limited to people in their 30s. And I've been saying the whole time that I expect 28 to like 32-ish years old Batman, maybe 37, 38 years old. So we'd love to know what you think of this. Do you think that Grace really does have a scoop and James Gunn is shutting it down even though it is true? Or do you think that Grace, once again, is wrong and James is just honestly telling the truth and he's just like, we're actually not, for crying out loud, Grace. How many times do I have to shut down your rumors? We're making lists. It's not limited. The characters aren't limited to their 20s, but that's about it. And lastly, for today's video, guys, Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle, and yes, I am looking forward to this movie. To any of those people like, I don't care about the remaining DCEU movies. Like, fair enough, you might not care about them, but For me, the reason why I do is because Blue Beetle was very self-contained from what we've heard, doesn't acknowledge the larger DCEU, and is kind of like just an origin story for the character. So, if you're excited for the character of Blue Beetle and how this character can easily be implemented into the DCU as a DCU movie, and it is the first movie after the Flash reset, then this is a movie that should, and I think deserves, attention. And if you are one of those people, then according to George Lopez on Instagram, the first trailer for Blue Beetle is coming soon. And interestingly as well, insiders are saying that the trailer will debut before a major movie release in April. Now, there are a few possibilities here with this, and it makes me wonder if they're going to show the Blue Beetle trailer before the Flash movie at CinemaCon. Now, maybe you don't know this, but they're actually showing the Flash movie super early in late April at CinemaCon to those who attend, because that's how confident they are in it. So they could show the trailer there and then also release it online. But then again, there are some other major movie releases in April that they might want to pop up the Blue Beetle trailer for to get more families involved in it, or maybe not families on every candidate here. But one of them could be the major release of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. And even though that's not a Warner Brothers movie, if a lot of people see the Blue Beetle trailer before that would maybe get a lot of eyeballs on it. But also we have Evil Dead Rise, which is distributed by Warner Brothers. So you could argue it's going to play before that trailer, but I don't know. It could still, but the more interesting drop would be before the Super Mario Bros. Movie, or obviously the Flash movie. So let me know what you think of that. Are you excited for Blue Beetle? We know we're getting a trailer very, very soon, and this is legit. Lots of people are saying it even outside of the insiders. So I can't wait to react to it, do a breakdown. And the reason is for the aforementioned reasons I gave. It is a movie that can work by itself and hopefully be adapted into the new DCU under James Gunn. And again, considering on the roadmap, as James Gunn said, it's after the Flash reset, it kind of does make it a prelude into the new DCU. It's not necessarily something that they might focus on with regards to a sequel anytime soon, but it technically is, alongside Aquaman 2, something that is after, quite literally after, the Flash movie. That means after Barry tries to rectify his screw-up in the movie, run back in time, tries to make things better, but not everything is exactly the same. New Superman, new Batman and whatnot, but Blue Beetle is still there, alongside Aquaman by the looks of it. So yeah, there are reasons, especially if you're into the character of Sholomar Dueñas, Jaime Reyes, and Blue Beetle, certainly things to look forward to here. But that's just about everything from this news roundup, so can't wait to see what you guys have to say about all of the stories. One thing that I'd really appreciate from everyone is a like on this video. Again, if you've made it this far in the video, 20-something minutes in, leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. Maybe consider subscribing as well if you want to stay more up to date on news, also reviews, breakdowns, and all kinds of other things on the channel. But other than that, guys, I'm gonna love you and leave you now. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.